Okay, so I'm gonna make some caramel apples. So I just have 4 bags of caramel, and I just took the wrappers off and put them into the double boiler. And I added 2 tablespoons of water per bag of caramel. And so once that gets melted, we just stir it up. It takes a little while. And while that's melting, we prep the apples. Okay, while the caramel is melting, we've prepped the apples. We've just taken the stickers off and the stems out. So now we're actually going to take the apples and put them in some hot water on the stove. And that way they will be able to kind of melt that wax coating off the outside of the apples. We don't want to leave it in there too long because it will kind of cook the apple just enough to melt that wax coating off. That way this caramel will stick when we put the caramel on. It won't just fall off. It'll kind of just be a little bit more, have a little bit more grip to it. Just for a little bit. This actually might discolor the outside of the apple just a little bit, especially if it gets left in there a little too long, but it doesn't hurt the apple or harm it or ruin it, and nobody knows because the caramel covers the color. So you just come over to the towel, and I usually just kind of like to rub it down just a little bit on the towel, kind of take that wax coating off. You can even see, look on the towel here, that the white wax coating is coming off of the apple. And I'll show you, I've done this to a few now. Good. And like you can kind of tell this one, a little bit of discoloration. You can kind of see where the water went up to here. But like I said before, it won't harm or hurt the apple at all. This one even a little bit more so, but same thing. It doesn't harm the apple. It just makes it so the caramel can stick. You can even feel like when I rub my fingers along it, you can feel that it's got a little bit more grip to it now. It's not as smooth with that wax coating gone. And that just really helps the caramel to stick and not fall off. We've got the wax coating off. We're just going to put in the apple stick so we can hold it into the caramel. So we just hold that here. Hold that for me, Jeffrey, please. Okay. And then I just usually take a rubber mallet and just tap it down in there so it's nice and sturdy. Good? Very good. Just going to go ahead and check the caramel here. See how it's coming along. Looks pretty good. Probably just another minute or two and it will be nice and melted. The nice thing about using a double boiler is you don't have to worry about it burning or sticking to the bottom of the pan. And then I'll show you later, just when we go to dip the caramels, it's nice because you can tip the top pan to the side, and so it lets you have a little bit more of a angle when you're dipping the caramel, so you don't have to go straight down. Okay, so now that our caramel is ready, we're going to just tip this double boiler to the side just a little bit, and then we've got our caramel apple here on the stick ready to go. See how it's kind of a little discolored where we took that wax coating off, but that's just fine. So I'm just going to dip it in here and just kind of circle it around. Good. Now you want to kind of drip off the excess here. You want to make sure all the excess drips off or you'll just have a big mess. On the cookie sheet it will kind of continue to drip off just a little bit. So yeah, I sort of cheat because I've been making caramel apples and I don't like to hold them until they get a little bit cooled. So my husband made this little holder. I'm just going to walk over here and I'll put it right here. And so I just let that sit upside down for just a while. And then that way the caramel won't just all drip off the bottom. In just a few minutes I'll take it off and put it on this cookie sheet over here with some wax coating. I did spray it down first with some extra virgin olive oil or any kind of non-stick spray so it won't stick to this parchment paper. But anyway, so after we let it sit there, we'll just transfer it over to here, and then we transfer it to the fridge. Okay, so when the double boiler cools down a little bit, the caramel tends to get a little bit more thick. And so if you want your apples to all stay kind of the same consistency, where you don't have some apples with a thin layer of caramel and some with really thick, you just heat up the double boiler again and warm up the caramel a little bit, and it will thin out. Okay, I just wanted to show you when it gets down to where there's not as much caramel at the end, it's still okay. Just try and get as much caramel on the apple as you can. Switch it to one side. Try not to let it hit the bottom is all, but even still, caramel's pretty easy. It'll taste just as good no matter what it looks like. Now that I'm almost finished dipping my carameled apples with the caramel, I'm going to start melting my white chocolate. I just used the Nestle Toll House Premier White Morsels. The only thing you have to remember is not to get any water inside the mixture or it will cause it to clump. So no water or condensation of any kind. So you just want to warm up the double boiler and really let the morsels kind of just melt slowly. Now that the morsels have melted, sometimes it can be a little bit clumpy, so just you'll stir it until those little clumps will eventually go away. So the funny thing about these white morsels is when it's too hot, it becomes a little clumpy. Like I can pick it up with my spoon, and when I pour it off, you can kind of see how it gets a little clumpy. But as it cools, those clumps go away and it becomes nice and smooth. So we're just going to give it a few more minutes and let the white chocolate kind of cool down just a little bit. You don't want it to cool down too much because then it will kind of start to solidify. So there's just kind of really that happy place. You just kind of let it cool down for just a few more minutes. And then we can dip our apples. So I think the white chocolate might be ready. So I'll show you just when I pick it up here. It's a little less clumpy. See how it's just a lot more smooth and a lot less clumpy. Maybe a little bit, but I think it'll be okay. Doesn't clump up like it did before. I probably had to wait a good 15, 20 minutes. It took a while. So I think we'll be pretty good though. Now I can't really hold the phone and dip the apple at the same time, so I just tilt it forward just like I did with my other double boiler. You see I just tilt it forward. It just gives me a little bit of an advantage, so I can just tilt the apple sideways. And then I'm going to use my mixture of cinnamon and sugar here that I've got, and I usually just shake it over the sink because it makes a big mess. Now after I put the white chocolate and the cinnamon sugar on, I just drizzle a little bit of this Heath toffee bits on top, on the bottom, and then I place it into the large cupcake holders. I'm gonna try and dip this apple just one-handed, so bear with me here so I can hold this camera. Not sure how this will actually work. Just going to show you, even though it looks a little clumpy on the apple right now, once you sprinkle that cinnamon and sugar on it, it smooths out just a bit. Okay, so that didn't work too great, but as you can see, it was kind of clumpy at first, but I shook off the excess, got the excess in there, and then I took it over the sink and I sprinkled the cinnamon and sugar on it, and now I'm just going to put the toffee bits on and then put it in the cupcake holder, just like these ones. So now I'm just looking at it, so it's smoothed out quite a bit. There's still a little bit there, but once that toffee bits goes on there, it hides that. Nobody notices or sees it or cares when they're eating it. just a little bit. So you can either roll it in there or sprinkle it on top. I don't have a lot of extra today, so I've just been sprinkling it, but you can just roll it. Just on the bottom there. There you go. Okay, and that's what it looks like when it's all finished. I have found that if I try and get chocolate all the way to the top of the apple, that it seems to crack less. Now, I'm not sure if that's really true or if I just made that up, but so I just try and get the white chocolate all the way to the stick if I can. Okay, and here they are, all finished. I ran out of white chocolate at the end, so I just drizzled the white chocolate around and put some toffee at the bottom. Anyway, let me know if you have any questions. Thanks. Enjoy.